Okay, I'd like to call the Planning and Development Committee meeting to order, and first of all ask if anyone has a declaration of pecuniary interest. They declare it now or at the appropriate time. Seeing none, we'll move into our relatively short agenda, 2 items. The first is an action item, the Huron-Kinloss County Official Plan Amendment number 37.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the committee is aware, the approval authority for local plan amendments has been delegated by the minister to this body, and so this is amendment number 37. And amendment number 37 is related to the now becoming famous Music in the Fields event that's being held right sort of in Lucknow or on the edge of Lucknow. And the event's been up and running for a number of years, and it's time when they're starting the volunteer group looking at getting approvals. And part of the site is actually located within the village, within the urban area, and then part of it is out in the rural area, designated as rural, and also a mineral extractive designation overlay on the property. If you go to the map, you can see the lands that are subject to the application, and also an Appendix B shows the actual site plan. And on the top you can see Area 649, and that's a proposed area to be expanded camping area, and that's currently in the rural area and has some hazards associated with it and so on. And then Area 410 and 154, and where it says no camping 2016, 2017 in the main area, that's for the most part within the village of Lucknow. And down towards the bottom of the map, you can see there's a couple of local roads that access that property. So the purpose of this amendment is to provide clearance to make the site legal from a policy perspective by changing the designations on the property to open space, which permits the event. It should be noted that there was some concerns at the public meetings and so on from members of the public regarding noise and traffic and the like. For the most part, it's been evaluated from a planning perspective, and we think that the partners in the organization are willing to work with the town in terms of emergency procedures during the event, and additionally with their CEMC to ensure that if there's issues regarding the roads or access and so on, those will be worked out through agreement with the municipality. So from a planning perspective, we made a recommendation at the local meeting where they considered the official plan amendment as well as a temporary use bylaw. The very lengthy report attached to this agenda, and additionally at the local level, making recommendations that it was good land use and in the public interest, and a recommendation that it should proceed. Again, in terms of the other instruments required at this point, it's a temporary use bylaw that's in place with the municipality, and should the municipality be satisfied that this is something they want to see over the long term, and then they have the ability to either zone it permanently or to extend the temporary use bylaw and make changes as they go. So we believe that any of the objections from abutting landowners regarding noise and dust and so on have been addressed or can be addressed through the operational procedures with the event, and there is a recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Chris. The recommendation is before you that the Township of Huron-Kinloss Official Plan Amendment number 37 be approved. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Milt and Ann. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Next item is an information item. In the past quarter, we provided you with what is basically we call an operations update. It's a little bit different than the actual quarterly reports, and it's really it was a recommendation that came from the organizational review, or the operational review, I should say, and around this idea that we need some format to report back to council on a regular basis in terms of some of our activities in the field and some of the accomplishments behind the scenes that you wouldn't normally be aware of. And so this is the second run at it. We've made some changes to it just for clarity and to simplify the document a bit. And then, so the next stage would be to work with the other departments and to try to consolidate a format such as this so we can do it corporate-wide. And then we have something that can go on the website or be handed out in paper copies and so on if somebody wants to know about what goes on in Bruce County. It can become a bit of a marketing piece for the county, whether it be for economic development or EMS or human resources, whatever the case might be. And then additionally, you'll notice there's messaging in here from the director and so on. And again, if you wanted a promotional piece to speak to a larger event, then the messaging can be swapped out for messaging for elected officials or whoever, frankly, whoever you wanted to. So where we'd like to head with this then is basically the submission of routine information from all of the departments, and then the graphics is the very last piece to give it that look and feel from a marketing perspective. So as you can see in this one, there's simply a message from the director that hits on some of the main activities that we've been working on. Some of these you are aware of because of department reports that came forward and so on, and some of them, again, things that were not necessarily those broader strategic ones that we're working on, but simply operational issues as well. One of the major highlights here, we'll be speaking about this later on today, of course, is with regard to economic development and, of course, working closely with the CAO's office and Bruce Power through the contract, which has now been signed to try to enhance our activities in and around the promotion of economic opportunities around the Bruce Power nuclear development site. You're very much aware in terms of the activities going on with regard to economic development and corporate policy. We've been very fortunate to be able to start recruitment, which is nearing completion in and around the business-to-business side or the business-to-Bruce side, and look at having that ramped up by year end. Explore the Bruce, of course, remains a core part of our programming, and I would say it's probably this is one of the busiest summers I've seen since I've lived in Bruce County from a sheer volume perspective for the number of tourists. And of course, the Bruce continues to run as well. You're aware that the Bruce Enterprise Center is up and running. We're currently leasing space from the town of Saugeen Shores. And you can see our two new staff members, and Carissa Downey runs the youth business side of it, including the Summer Starter Company. And Ryan Lipshay is the business development coordinator for the Business Enterprise Center. And so they've been up and running, getting training, doing some mentorship with BECs from other jurisdictions as well, getting their feet wet and starting to have some meaningful impact within the county. As part of Spruce the Bruce, working with Walkerton on their toolkit in and around the downtowns, and with some success there towards nearing completion as well. You've all seen the new visitor map that's been out, so we've been starting to take some of the new branding materials and apply that to the consumer side of it. And of course, the official visitor map is one product that we're particularly proud of that is now out to market. Attended a number of updates, of course, the brochure swap, and we also hosted a workshop with some of our partners on how to utilize public space, and this is with Patty Kendall, and she's an expert on public spaces, has done a lot of work for the Blue Mountain Association, and that was well attended as well. Trails program continues to be active, continues to be popular. We're running with a very small crew this year, just two people. We made some attempts to apply under the Canada Skill Link program, and we're unable to meet the deadline for the program. And it's actually a case whereby the registrations under the program have to be done corporately. And by the time we can make the registration, we are registered now, but not enough to meet the deadline. It is a popular program in the county in that it puts people to work. It allows them to maintain their employment insurance if we provide them with meaningful work, and also allows youth to access the program. And so we do look forward to re-implementing that program in 2017. On the land use side, it's been a busy year with applications, but we've still been able to do special project work for the municipalities, which you'll see later in our quarterly review in terms of working with updating official plans and zoning bylaws and so on. We've begun to complete a land inventory, and this came out of a request quite some number of months ago that from a regional perspective, we don't really have an inventory of vacant land. And so we're just starting to compile that, and each of the planners and the techs from the 3 hubs are contributing to that, and that should be completed within the next number of weeks. So you will be able to go to the GIS site and find land and resources. I mentioned the planning applications remain strong. And we do have a survey that's it's attached to our emails and also up on the website as well. And we continue to receive customer comments back, for the most part positive. And you can see a quote from one of those that we had received. So again, just a general update. And again, hoping to take this to the next level and bring it more of a corporate feel, and to start consolidating some of the good news messaging across the county.
Thank you very much, Chris. I must say that's a very impressive report and well done. And doesn't it fit nicely, the coloring in with the logo? It just, doesn't that look nice? That's great. Any comments or questions? Yes, Mike?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I like it. I really like it too, Chris. I think there's a lot of good information there. I just have one question. It's on page. It has to do with future planning work, and I look through it and I see where I know one of it is the 5-year update in Kincardine, but then it goes on. It says research is continuing in several areas of concern: agricultural severances and hazard land mapping. I know the hazard land mapping, and that's the one you're doing in the North Bruce Peninsula, I suspect.
Yes.
I just wonder what's the context of the agriculture severances, the research.
When we got involved in the hazard land mapping, we had a number of issues reports that we were presenting to council, and I think hazard was issue report number 7 or number 8. But issue report number 2 or 3 was agriculture, and we began looking at updating the county official plan policies. But since that time, there's been a lot of feedback to the planners on the ground about particularly with regard to surplus farm severances and eligibility around surplus farm severances, in terms of now receiving applications really from corporations that are not farm corporations. They're simply investment corporations. And there's a model whereby they would buy up land from the farmer, make some commitment they would sever off the farmhouse. The farmer can live in that farmhouse for as long as he likes, and also continue to farm the land. So we're starting to do some background work in and around that. We, in the initial issues report, one of the things was brought up is, do we continue with the surplus farm dwelling severance policies? And so we're starting to do the background research in terms of what that means, what types of applications that we're getting. That policy came out of the old food land guidelines, probably from 1976. And it was this idea that a farmer, because you were a farmer, you could have a retirement lot or a surplus farm dwelling. And at the time, in 76, it was probably Farmer A with 100 acres buying 200 acres or 300 acres or 400 acres. Now, the majority of our applications are very large farms, very large holdings. And so the economics around it has changed a bit, and I'm not saying that is a bad policy, but something I've asked the planners to dig a bit deeper into and providing some options for council.
If I might, Mr. Chair, there's one area that I've always specifically, and it's around our urban fringes almost, where we call it agricultural land and it really isn't agricultural land, and so those policies then apply that prohibit, there's residential pieces, there's very small pieces, and I think there's a better way of dealing with them than calling them agriculture, because you couldn't convince many people that some of those pieces are agricultural that we designate in the plan, and so then they're bound by those severance policies that I think kind of locks up land forever, that it's not going to be useful. Yeah. And I'd be interested if you looked, or if you're looking at some of that.
The county plan has a very simple methodology for identifying what is agriculture and what is rural, and it's chunks of land, and I think it's a 40 hectare criteria, and if it's 40 hectares or larger, then it's in the A, and similarly, if it's rural land, 40 hectares is the cutoff as well. So it only uses Canadian land inventory, and that's it. So soil classification 1 to 3 means you're A. And so if you're talking about areas such as on the edge of Southampton, some of those lands within the Old Town plot, they're already fragmented. There's not a lot of evidence of existing farming in those areas. It still shows as A because it's class 1 to 3. So there's the main methodology for looking at that is what's called a LEAR, land inventory. So now we only have the one criteria, but a LEAR is a community-based exercise where you might have 10 categories. You know, is it being cropped? Is there evidence that it's been tile drained? Is there evidence that it's been fragmented? And so you list the criteria, and then you score the criteria and go out and map the property. So there was we did a small project down in Kincardine years ago using the LEAR methodology, and it works fairly well. One of the side effects of that is that there's some areas that are obviously going to be taken out of the agricultural area and put into rural, but there's many areas that are currently designated as rural which we put into agriculture because they're of lesser capability, but they've been tiled and they're being cropped, and the entire concession block has been cleared, and it would logically belong in within coming out of the rural into the agriculture. Planning doesn't deal very well with edges outside of the urban area. In that because the agriculture and rural designation is primarily resource-based with very limited opportunities for residential development. So if you have 100 acres within the rural designation, it permits you to take off a couple of lots, and that's about it. So the other option is looking at bringing those lands into the urban area and potentially servicing them as well as another look at that. So.
I think you really identified some of the lands that I was trying to describe, because really they sit there and they're not going to be it's not very easy to bring them into the urban envelope, either of them, because I mean there's other land, there's all kinds of competition for that, but there's very small pieces there that just don't fit in that, and an official plan amendment is a cumbersome way of dealing with them, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Anyways, I think I've.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, Milt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Business Enterprise Center, is that, I'm just wondering, are we touching every corner of the county now, more so than ever, or the same as we used to, or how is it unfolding?
My feeling is that yes, we are expanding services across the county. I wouldn't like to speak to it specifically unless I gave you the numbers by area, and we can provide those back in a report in terms of what our reach is. I'd be happy to provide that.
That's fine, thank you. The other one as well is the vacant land inventory. So Chris, this is vacant land that is designated for development?
Well,
or
everything is a bit complex with this because the best inventory is MLS, that's being listed by a real estate agent because it's really available and it's really for sale. But there's other lands that are out there too that are designated as industrial, commercial. They could be serviced. They could be owned by municipalities that are not currently being listed. So what I think we're looking at is maybe a rough scoring or a rough ranking system where on the market, ready to go. And that would involve partnership with MLS where simply we are able to click on those or show them, and maybe it takes you to the MLS site, right? And the other ones are, you know, here's a large parcel, for example, in south of Wyerton, there's lands that are designated as industrial and commercial. So there's a lot of them that are for sale. There's a problem that there's no stormwater plan in place, so some of the smaller lots you can't develop by the time you got your stormwater pond on there, and we've had this experience with Canadian Tire and Giant Tiger. But if you had money and a proposal and tenants, you may be able to capitalize the extension of the sewer and water from the edge of Ames Street and simply install it yourself. So those are the types of properties that also need to be identified potentially as future development potential because they're large blocks, and those are hard to find that are designated. So I think maybe a cascading effect of these are the easy places to start looking. If you have money and ability in property development, then these are maybe some of the second tier ones that are potentially could be a go.
good, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, Mitch?
On Milt's comments, I know Stelina's here today, and we welcome Stelina here to the County of Bruce. But I think this is imperative for Stelina moving forward, that she does have an inventory of properties that potential developers have access to when looking at relocating to Bruce County. So I think it's imperative that she has that.
Good point. All right, yes, Ann?
So it's disappeared on here. The planning survey update, do you feel that it's well worthwhile continuing with? We were kind of looking at similar things. Municipality of Kincardine, or does it give you good background or an opportunity just to say to somebody, well, please fill in our survey?
It can be useful. As it stands now, it's really just on the planning side of it. And we've had some discussions with the IT department because there is software out there that's just corporate software, and we need the complaint procedure. We have the ombudsman's office there now, and it would be very nice if we had that complaint procedure on the website, if it was for planning or anything else, and that way there's a record kept. Like we've had some complaints, for example, regarding the rail trail, and we just happen to keep all of the emails and information and messaging in the paper trail. But to be able to automate that, we've looked at complaint procedures that are out there with other municipalities, and they're quite simple to use and so on. But I would like to have the opportunity to work with the IT department to see if we can buy off-the-shelf software that works across all those divisions. So I'm reluctant to put more work into it on our side until we unroll it maybe with a bit more of a corporate flavor. And there's different legislation and different types of complaints. So for example, in the homes, it's a bit different than it would be on the planning side. So, but it is important. We are pursuing it, and it was identified, I think it was identified in the operational review as something we should be looking at.
I'm just interested to kind of find out the most efficient process, and so the software, you think it's specific enough to cover the different departments, but here at the county, you started with the planning department. Do you have it for any other departments or every department?
Maybe I would let Kelly speak on behalf of the other departments. I know. Again, I'm aware of things with regard to the homes and so on, but I don't know if it's across the board.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the other departments do have it, with the exception of highways and corporate services in terms of a formalized process. But we are in the process of researching how to establish one. We're choosing to call it compliments and concerns, and that take everyone back down the committee a number of months ago. A member had talked about we oftentimes don't make it easy for the public to also tell us what we're doing well. So the focus is to establish one mechanism that serves all needs, in particular the long-term care, because we have very rigorous reporting requirements to the ministry.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I think you have an introduction.
Yes, just as many people are aware, Dana Kiefer is going off for a new adventure for about 12 months, and Dana has been the planner for the South Office, and Brianne Labute has been hired in to cover that off for 12 months. And Brianna, if you could stand and just wave and say hi. So Brianna is a recent graduate from a master's program at the University of Guelph in rural planning and development, and undergrad from Vancouver Island University, and I think your hometown is Nanaimo, is that correct? And also she seems to be a lot brighter than Chris, because I see all these awards that she's received. And she was the finalist in the Canadian Evaluation Society in the Student Case Competition. She's the winner of the Ontario Graduate Scholarship and Canadian Graduate Scholarship, and the Faculty of Management Undergrad Research Award at Vancouver Island University. And there's other ones there too, but it goes on and on. And but there's nothing in here related to the plowing match or anything like that. So. Yes, okay, all right. So we'd like to take this opportunity then, Brianne, to welcome you aboard.
Thank you very much. And again, on behalf of all of council, we welcome you to Bruce County. I think that brings us to the end of our agenda, and we will meet again on August the 11th. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Milt and Ann, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.